What's up, everybody? It's your friendly neighborhood Seth Grimes, and I'm here to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. Full in-depth spoiler discussion here. So if you have not seen the movie yet, now is your time to hit pause on this and back out of it and go watch the fucking movie. I'll say this right off the bat before I get into spoilers. Just my general thoughts. Like, this movie, wow. I haven't fully processed it yet, to be honest with you. I don't know that I put it quite above like Endgame or Infinity War, but this is right up there, top 3 probably MCU movies for sure, for me personally. Best Spider-Man movie ever. Absolutely go out of your way to go watch this in theaters. That's what I'll give you right now before we get into the deep dive here. But man, don't wait till it just comes out on Disney Plus or Blu-ray or whatever the fuck. Please go out of your way to go watch this in the theater twice, 3 times. It's worth every penny. It's fucking amazing. And with all of that said, let's clear the way for in-depth spoiler talk. Everything beyond this point is going to go into great detail about the movie. So let's be prepared for that in 2, 3. Wait. Gotcha. All right. So, Spider-Man No Way Home picks up where the Far From Home left off, and Spider-Man has been exposed by J. Jonah Jameson. He is Peter Parker. So he is running through the streets of New York, or swinging through the streets of New York. Everybody's seeing him for the first time, and they're starting to pull out their cell phones and do the paparazzi gimmick, and they're starting to hound MJ, so Peter just swings in and grabs MJ, and they get away together. They just kind of swing away from everything. They hide out first in Peter's apartment with Aunt May, and everybody knows where he lives, obviously, so there's like helicopters flying around outside his apartment. So they go to this secret pad that Happy has. And this is a little bit awkward scene here because they also pick up where the Happy and Aunt May are breaking up. So they got that whole thing going on. And it's, to be honest, the beginning of the movie starts a little slow. You got that situation. One of the coolest things that happens right towards the beginning of the movie, though, cool for Daredevil fans, Netflix fans. We just recently saw Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin show up in Hawkeye, which I'm loving that show, by the way. I see a lot of haters for Hawkeye online. I fucking love Hawkeye. I think it's going great. I'm a Kate Bishop fan. I don't get all the hate that is going out for it. But I was also a huge fan of the Marvel Netflix series. Daredevil, I loved. Punisher, I loved. Kingpin was in there. Matt Murdock, Daredevil, shows up as a lawyer. Basically, as, the internet predicted, he would be Spider-Man's lawyer. There's no, like, court thing or anything like that, but he was just kind of there at, I believe, Aunt May's apartment giving legal advice, right? Like, this is how fucked you are, basically. And he's talking to Peter, saying that Peter should be okay, but he said that Happy's fucked. Happy better lawyer up, get a good lawyer. But it was nice to see. It was just a cameo, really, but it was nice to see that crossover. There wasn't anything that looked different or anything about Daredevil, so there's no indication. Same with Kingpin at this time. There's no indication that it is a different variant of Daredevil. There was a scene where somebody threw a brick through the window because, there's a riotous mob out that hates Spider-Man because they think, he killed everybody, and, they believe Mysterio. And a brick comes through the window, and Daredevil catches it. Matt Murdock catches it, and he's blind. He's supposed to be blind. So everybody's like, well, how the hell did you do that? And he just says, I'm a really good lawyer. So that was funny, and that was basically the end of Daredevil, but it just shows that he's in the MCU, Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock is officially MCU canon, and not just as the lawyer or as a wink wink, but he caught the brick coming through the window fast before Spider-Man could even react to it. So this was clearly saying, hey, this guy is Daredevil. So we're going to see more of that probably in the TV shows, I think is what's rumored, right? We got Kingpin coming into Hawkeye, and then there's that Echo show coming up. So that's probably where we're going to start to see more Matt Murdock, She-Hulk, the lawyer show. But that was a fun little cameo. But other than that, I think the beginning of the movie starts out really slow. And I did kind of hit a point, I'll be 100% honest, where I was like, because the hype was so huge coming into it. I seen so many people posting on Twitter and shit. It's like, this is the best movie I've ever seen. Greatest movie of all time. Greatest superhero movie. And I'm going through this first act, and I'm like, they run into a situation where they all apply to colleges, Ned and MJ and Peter, and they all get turned down because they're all associated with Spider-Man, or our Spider-Man in Peter's case. So they're getting declined from even being able to get into the college because of their association with a potential criminal. Then you get I would say this is probably the second act. Well, he goes to Doctor Strange to kind of wrap up the first act, and he wants to fix things because because of him, it's affecting his friends' lives now. Now they can't get into the college of their dreams, and everything's all fucked up. Aunt May is getting messed with. Happy's getting messed with. He's got a lawyer up. It's all a big mess, and Peter just wants to bring things back to normal. So he seeks out Doctor Strange, just like you see in the ads. Let's do a spell that will make people forget. And then once the spell starts spinning, Peter's like, just like in the ads, you've seen all this already, wait, what about MJ? What about Aunt May? What about this? What about that? So when he does that, he starts to fuck up the spell. And Doctor Strange is able to kind of put it in like a little pocket dimension. He's able to contain it and then store it in a box. So he's wrapped up this big messy spell that was damaged, and he's hit it. But before that, he said that, I don't know if it was even addressed here, but the gist of it is that while it was fucking up, it did open a portal for some people who know that Spider-Man is Peter Parker to come through from other universes. And we get the first hint of this, which I would believe would be like in the second act here, where there's a scene on the bridge where Peter is trying to convince the MIT person, the admissions person, to let MJ and Ned in and not hold it against them that they're friends with Spider-Man. And then you see from the trailer, you see Doc Ock, his arms start to come up, and he's destroying cars, and he's destroying the bridge, and he's just causing chaos, right? So, Peter gets the Peter tingles, so he switches to the Spider-Man suit, and then he gets the "Hello, Peter," from Doc Ock. And they have a really awesome fight scene. And this was where the movie started to pick up for me. This is where it got out of the boring zone and got out of the oh, geez, am I going to be the only one who doesn't like this movie? Because I'm not feeling it right now. But as soon as him and Doc Ock start fighting, it became epic quick. Great fight scenes, great action scenes. Peter saving cars from falling off the bridge and that kind of stuff with his spidey webs. And he to fight Doc Ock's arms, he gets the spider legs that pop out of his back, like we've seen in some of the other movies in the Iron Spider suit. And they just fight, and it's a great scene. It's a great fight scene, good action, and good character for Doc Ock. I mean, Doc Ock was well represented. We'll get a little bit deeper into some of the villains here, but then there's the scene where everybody kind of speculated, because Doc Ock's arms are red, his tentacles are red, that he somehow is able to take the Stark tech. Well, he is. That's exactly what happens. He smashes Peter against the wall, and he rips a piece of his chest off. And like right the spider part, basically, right, the whole chest of it off, and it like merges with his tentacles. So Doc Ock's like, ooh, you got nanotech, that's impressive, and he absorbs it, and he gets the nanotech in his octopus arms, and then he's about to kill Peter, with a crushing blow to the chest, and Peter moves. Because he's got that nanotech was torn away, he has to move his mask down to his chest so to protect his exposed chest. So he's able to protect the blow from Doc Ock, but in the meantime, he got unmasked. He unmasked himself, and Doc Ock's like, whoa, you're not Peter Parker, So then he got confused, and then Spider-Man was able to connect the rest of the suit via Bluetooth. So he was able to basically hijack Doc Ock's tentacles and tie him up, and they were able to get him to, basically imprisoned in Doctor Strange's basement. And then that's where it was kind of explained, where we get the, that this isn't the same Peter Parker. Like, there's another Peter Parker from another universe that Doc Ock is familiar with, and they kind of go over that. And then Doctor Strange basically says, like, some of these people have gotten through, so it's your job to, the Scooby-Doo this shit. That's the go round up everybody, go round up anybody else that might have leaked through, and they got ways of, miraculously, conveniently have ways to track all these other disturbances in the world. And between Ned and Strange and MJ and Peter, they were able to track down the other bad guys. And there was another fight that basically, I think Sandman and Electro came at the same time. And then I think maybe Lizard was already captured. Yeah, Doctor Strange already captured Lizard. He found Lizard somewhere. And then basically they were able to, their debuts, they had a little bit of a fight when they first appeared, Electro and Sandman. And then, Sandman did the same thing. He's like, Peter, I'm here, it's me. And then he realizes that it's a different Peter too, and he doesn't trust him. So Sandman kind of becomes a bad guy again, because he doesn't know this new Peter. And Green Goblin was out there, of course, in the bridge scene too. Throwing the bombs, but he got away. He wasn't captured, or was he? How did that work? They didn't capture him right away. No, Aunt May gets him, because he comes into the feast, the shelter, as Norman Osborn. He's talking to the goblin in his mask, and he smashes the mask, and he tries to just escape, and doesn't know anybody, in this universe. It's a little bit sad, he comes in and he's like, there's somebody in my house. It's not my same house. My son, like, he doesn't exist in this universe. So everything that he knows is gone. So he just shows up at Feast looking for help, and he's very humbled and sad. And it was a really touching part of the story. So he gets brought in by May. Electro and Sandman are kind of caught quickly in this little box trap thing that Doctor Strange has, and he created the Doctor Strange suit. The magic suit was designed to capture the bad guys, so Peter basically could just activate something on his wrist that basically teleported the bad guys to Doctor Strange's little prison and laboratory down in his basement. So now, after there's some dialogue down there where they're in all of these action scenes were great, and we'll get into the bad guys here in a minute. There's some dialogue now where Doctor Strange is like, well, now we have to send all these guys back, so we're gonna do that now. And they, after kind of talking with the bad guys, they realize like, hey, these bad guys they're probably gonna go die. We're gonna go die now in our other universe because Spider-Man kills them all in their universes. So Peter's got a big heart, and Aunt May especially steps in, and she's like, no, you can't. You have an obligation to save these people. Doctor Strange is like, no, fuck them. It's not not our problem. They have to go. Otherwise, they're gonna mess up our universe. So Peter gets it in his head that he can save them through Aunt May. So instead of sending the bad guys back to their own reality, Peter tries to fight Doctor Strange. And that's where you get that whole fight scene that was in the ads. And that was a fantastic fight scene, too. There was this really cool thing where Doctor Strange, when he punched Peter out of his physical form, the Spider-Man, so Peter Parker's like floating like an astral projection, right? Like a ghost, like his spirit is outside his body, like we seen in Endgame with the Hulk, and Bruce Banner. But instead of Peter just dropping, like Strange is trying to grab the box back, and Spider-Man, the Spider-Man body is still like playing keep away and still keeping that box from Doctor Strange, which was amazing. And Doctor Strange commented like, you shouldn't be able to do that, but maybe it was like a spider sense type thing. I don't know, but the fight scenes here and just the reality warping, they go to Doctor Strange's mirror world, all of that shit's great. But Peter's able to figure out that in the mirror world it's all like some just math shit, right? Trigonometry or whatever the fuck. And he basically is able to figure out how to break it. I don't know. I'm not good at math, right? So don't expect me to explain how, but he uses math to break the mirror world, and in the process is able to actually trap Doctor Strange in a pocket dimension. And at that point, Spider-Man is now on a mission with MJ and Ned and Aunt May to try to fix these other Spider-Men. Well, Sandman doesn't trust Spider-Man. He's very untrusting because he doesn't know him. Doc Ock, being completely subdued still by the nanotech, the Stark tech in the arms, he's actually kind of becomes a good guy here, and he's kind of with it. Like, if we can fix whatever's going on and get everybody back to normal and save them, basically, he's on board with that. So whatever he can do to help. Electro kind of likes it. Like Jamie Foxx's character, he's like, this, because it's a new universe, there's new, maybe it's got a different, different properties for him, maybe different, he's a different type of electromagnetic energy. And he kind of likes, he's a bad guy. He enjoys the power, and he enjoys the way the power was making him feel in this universe. And so he kind of wants to escape. And as they're plotting this, Norman, the humble, like, I'm so lost, I don't know what to do with myself, broken man, he starts to be taken over by the Goblin again. The voice in his head, right? And Spider-Man senses it first. Peter senses that something's not right. And all the bad guys have been broken out of prison by this point. They were released from the holding cells in Doctor Strange's basement. They were held up in Happy Hogan's apartment. And Peter starts to realize something's not right, but he's not entirely sure what it is quite yet. And he's walking around trying to follow his Peter Tingle. And Green Goblin has taken over Norman Osborn. And he doesn't want to be fixed because he's an agent of chaos and evil and destruction. And he just wants to go free. So he is able to break free, and in that kerfuffle, and I don't remember everything exactly, but I know Electro gets some kind of arc reactor from Tony Stark. From because Happy has some Stark tech stored away in his safe house here, his apartment. And so Jamie Foxx takes off with that. Electro takes off with that, and that kind of powers like his new Electro look, his new suit, his new energy, basically. Lizard, I believe, just kind of runs off into the night somewhere, maybe back into the sewers. And Doc Ock, he's still under control. His tentacles are his source of bad guyism, right? That's where he becomes a bad guy, is because they take over his mind. Well, they're being controlled by the Stark tech, which is Bluetooth to Peter Parker's suit, and so he's able to kind of control Doc Ock, and now it's just Dr. Octavius, So he's trying to help as much as he can. He's a good guy. I'm going to say this. We'll get into the villains right now. Let's talk about the villains of this. This movie does such a great job of not just making these villains cameos, but by really like giving them a purpose and giving them their own like agenda and keeping them true to their like all their backstory line is the same as like they are plucked right out of the previous movies. These are not variant versions of any of these characters. These are the characters we've seen in the other movies. And like Jamie Foxx, like Electro, just like he's got style in this movie. He's got a lot of witty lines. He's got kind of a I want to say like a Killmonger style swagger, like bad guy swagger to him, no, I like this shit. I want to, this is fun for me to be a bad guy. Like the cool, chill, laid back, but like I'm a bad guy kind of thing. I will say Lizard and Sandman are kind of meh. Like they're there. They don't really get that full story arc. Sandman maybe a little bit more. But really like, Jamie Foxx gets a lot of screen time. Electro, a lot of attention. I think they did right by that character. I think he really stood out. He gets a Miles Morales reference in there towards the end. Maybe I'll touch on that later when I get to that part. But then, Doc Ock, like, he does, like, Alfred Molina does some of his best work. I would compare I wouldn't say this is better than what he did in the original appearance that he had in Spider-Man 2. Like, he's just killing it in this movie. He's so good. He's so personable. Like, he's redeeming himself, He's a good guy, basically, through this entire movie. He's only a bad guy on the bridge. And then Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. Good Lord. He is by far the most, like, he stole the show as the bad guys. Like, he's like the main bad guy of this thing, and he just, the way that he was acted, the way that he played from the humbled, broken, sad, homeless guy who's lost and doesn't know what to do with himself to the evil, almost Joker-like, but just vicious, maniacal, chaos-causing, just pure evil agent in just the way that he's able to portray it in his facial features when he morphs and he's so bad. He's ruthlessly bad. He really killed it. Like all three, Doc Ock, Electro, Green Goblin, are worth every ounce of bringing them back in. It wasn't just a cameo. It wasn't just nostalgia. It wasn't just a fan service. Like, it was fan service, but it was Like, they were really well thought out, well acted, well played, well purposed characters in these movies. So then it kind of just becomes chaos, and this is where Peter goes to try to capture them again, and he leaves the box thing with Ned and with MJ, and the box thing, like Peter said, to push the button on it and free that spell if they don't hear from him. And they haven't heard from him in a while, and MJ's like, all right, I'm going to open it. Ned's got a sling, actually. He got from Doctor Strange. I don't remember how he ended up with it, but when they put Doctor Strange in the pocket dimension, Ned ended up with his sling ring. So when they're just sitting around the table, Ned's like, I wish we could see Peter. And, like, he just gets this faintest little spark from his sling ring. So MJ's like, whoa, do that again. So they keep trying and playing with it. And eventually they were able to pop open a portal to see Spider-Man. And they start yelling for him, hey, come here, there he is. And so Spider-Man turns and he runs towards, he's like in an alleyway somewhere. He turns and he runs towards the portal, and when he comes through, motherfucking Andrew Garfield. I gotta tell you, this appearance, it felt a little too perfect, but like perfect at the same time. Like, Ned just so happens to be able to do a sling ring, and we just so happen to get, like, it was convenient, but it was like dope at the same time. Like, it was just that epic. It was the same kind of epicness as like when Cap gets Mjolnir in Endgame. It's just like boom, and then all the guys come through the portals and stuff. It's that same epic feel, that same holy shit. So like none of it matters. It's just this guy. And then they're like, so he comes through and they don't trust that it's him, They don't trust that he's like, I'm Peter Parker, and they're like, well, you're not our Peter Parker. And then he's like, are you Spider-Man? And they try to figure it out, and they're questioning him, and they get him to like walk on the ceiling and stuff to prove he's Spider-Man, and to sling webs. And like, so there's this cool like just hangout like scene between Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, Ned and MJ. Ned and MJ, by the way, like, this is their best work in the Spider-Man series as well. Like, those actors, like Ned steps up his game as a character. There's one line in here where he learns that the other Spider-Mans have best friends who turned on him and tried to kill him, and Ned says, I would never try to turn on you and kill you. And it kind of almost sets the stage because Ned becomes Hobgoblin in the comics. It sort of leaves that door. It's like a teaser, right? There's a couple teasers in this movie. It's so good with that kind of shit. But Ned nailed it. MJ, this is Zendaya's best acted appearance in the MCU so far. Like, of the three Spider-Mans, her character work in this, her facial features, the way she sells things, the way that she like fully like gives her love to Spider-Man, and she's there for him and ride or die, and like she's emotionally attached to this, and like she just does fantastic. Such great character work in this movie, well acted. Same goes for Aunt May. I think Aunt May is absolutely at her best. Best character work for Aunt May in this entire series. All of these characters just grew so much in this movie, and not just like our characters from our MCU Spider-Man, but the other Spider-Man, the bad guys. Everybody just grew. This was such a like everybody just got like tons of experience points from this movie. Like it's hard to describe. It just this movie did so much to grow everybody's world and expand these characters and give closure to some of these characters. So back to, I just wanted to sidebar that while we were talking about MJ and Ned, but so they decide, well, that didn't work. Let's try to see Peter Parker again. Let's see our Peter Parker this time. And Ned does the thing again, and he opens a portal this time for Tobey fucking Maguire. But he's not in his Spider-Man gear. He's in his like normal like dad clothes or something. And they make fun of that too. He's like, he looks older. He's like in the Into the Spider-Verse, like old pot-bellied. He's not pot-bellied. He's still in shape, but he's not balding or anything like that. But you can just see like he's older. He's more weathered. Lines on his face, he's more experienced. You get the impression with these Spider-Men that they like the bad guys were plucked right out of the scenes right before their deaths. Like, so where Doc Ock was going to die on the bridge, that's where he comes back on the bridge, and that's the same for Green Goblin and same for Electro and all of them. Where they die, they come into this universe. Right, they kind of pick up right where they left off. The Spider-Men come in. Maybe it's because the spell didn't bring them in, but because Ned pulled them in through the Sling Ring Orange Doctor Strange portals. But they came in, like, seem to come in, like, current day. Like, they didn't come in fresh off of their movies. They came in like well after their movies, like they've continued to live life as Spider-Man. They're both still actively Spider-Man, but they're older, wiser. It's kind of like Peter, like our Peter, MCU Peter, Tom Holland is like young Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield is like mid Spider-Man, and Tobey Maguire is like dad Spider-Man, and it really like, to me, I'll tell you, like, I think Tobey didn't impress me all that much. I liked his movies. I liked the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy. I do not like Tobey Maguire necessarily as Spider-Man, as Peter Parker. I know, hot take. I know a lot of people are going to be like, what? Are you insane? I'm going to get slapped for that over the internet. But to me, I wasn't a huge Tobey fan to begin with, and I don't think he did much for me in this either. I mean, I was happy to see him because just the effect of Tobey and Andrew and Tom all together was fucking amazing. But to me, Andrew Garfield was the standout. Like, he came back in to this character. Like, Tobey, to me, like, he was Spider-Man-esque, but he also kind of felt a little bit like Tobey Maguire playing Spider-Man, like cameo almost. And he felt more cameo, and I think a lot of people will disagree with me too. I think a lot of people got a lot out of Tobey in this movie. I didn't. For me, I got a lot out of Andrew, though. I felt like Andrew really, like, nailed his role, and it made me want to see more of him. And I don't think I'm alone. I've seen other stuff about that online where I think other people want to see Andrew have another crack at this role. Like, he nailed it. He was so good. He was so good. He was so entertaining. And these three Spider-Men together, like, they're all different. Their personalities are different from each other, and their experience level is different from each other, but they're still the same. They don't have like a hive mind. It's not like they're completely different people, but they're of the same moral compass, the same belief system, the same, you know what I mean? Like, it's literally like three different writers' versions of what the Spider-Man character would be. They do focus, they bring their elements well, their different elements into this movie well. It was just so well written like that. Like the fan service, the attention to detail, the way, like, and I know I said Tobey felt more like a cameo, but none of them were cameos. Tobey felt more like one than Andrew, but they were all well written. Like, they had these scenes playing off each other. There was even a scene where MJ and Ned were trying to talk to Peter. And they're like, Peter. And they all look up, and then they're like, no, Peter Parker. And they all look up, and they're like, Spider-Man. And like, they're all the same. And the way that they framed it, it wasn't an exact mock of that cartoon meme with the three different Spider-Man all pointing at each other, but it was similar to that I think they were trying to do an homage to that, which was just great. Like, the fan service in this was fucking beautiful. And then they all kind of go into their big fight scenes where the Spider-Men come up with the plan where they all had their cures. This was another convenient plot point. We're just going to miraculously, and there's this Tony Stark machine that can invent anything. It just creates whatever you want it to create. So they all basically get in their lab coats and they create whatever they need to make the antidotes or reverse or fix, for like lizards, so to turn them back to a human. Green Goblin to reverse whatever toxin or poison or whatever is in there, and Sandman turn him back to a normal person. And you get the point, right? Electro, all that stuff. And they go out to find the villains again. And then, they were able to put a new chip into Doc Ock, which, were able to like properly connect. So they didn't disconnect the arms from him, but they disconnected the evil brain from him. Like the part that was corrupting him and turning him into a bad guy. They were able to keep his normal brain intact, so he's a hero. And they go off into the night, and there's these great scenes after the fight scenes where they're able to sort of have their like closing moment with their villains, where like Andrew's able to kind of have a heart-to-heart with Electro. And once they put a thing that like deactivates the arc reactor in Electro and like sucks all of his electric energy out of him, right? And when they get that on him, Andrew's having a heart-to-heart with him, and like, and this is where they bring up the Miles thing. Electro's like, I always thought you were black, because he was unmasked now, and Andrew's like, oh, I'm sorry, man. And he's like, there's got to be a black Spider-Man out there somewhere. So that was like a little nod to Miles, right? Miles is coming. Miles is my favorite. I love Miles. He's coming. He's coming. I promise you. And then, heart-wrenching, dude. This is where you cry, okay? Green Goblin shows up. And he's just wicked and evil and hell-bent on destruction. And he comes in on his glider, and he's gonna kill Aunt May. And before he does it, he taunts Peter and tells him that it's his fault that this is happening. And then he did. He killed Aunt May. And it's the way that they filmed it was so beautiful, because like he hit like his hovercraft thing hit Aunt May and knocked her down, and then there was like, he threw the green bomb thing, and like, there's an explosion and all this rubble fell down on both Peter and her, and Peter gets up and he thought he saved her, and she's okay, and she's talking, and like she gives him the great power, great responsibility line. I don't know if this was after she was hit by Green Goblin, or if this was right before she was hit with Green Goblin. But, there was this morality point in time where Peter was kind of thinking, you know, like, these guys are not my responsibility, you know, let's just get them back to their own universe, you know. He's fed up with it. And Aunt May's like, no, you know, she reinforced it. You know, with great power comes great responsibility. That line, but it came from Aunt fucking May. And then, yeah, she was, it was a heart wrenching death scene because she didn't just die. She like slowly died. Almost like mirroring, in a way, the way Peter got dusted, where he took longer to go. And he was really sad, and like, so she was like, I just need to catch my breath. I just need to catch my breath, she kept saying. And Peter discovers that she's bleeding out, and she dies. And heart-wrenching, and it kills Peter, and it sets him off in a rage. And now he wants to, and this was something Andrew Garfield said too, you know, after Gwen died in his universe, he went into rage mode. He said, I quit pulling my punches, you know. And I kind of picture him going, like, becoming like Batman. I am vengeance, right? I'm gonna go out there and just I'm out to hurt people now. And this is where we left. This is where our little Tom Holland, our cute little innocent high schooler Spider-Man, finally realizes like this was his, like, he lost Aunt May. He all of this destruction, he realizes this was all on him, and he loses it. This is his loss of innocence in a way, and he's gonna go murder the Green Goblin. And they have this brutal fight, like this MMA style, just beat down fight. And he's fucking up the Green Goblin. And Green Goblin, I think they had an earlier fight scene too where he's just laughing in his face every time he gets hit. Like, he's so good. Like, I can't say enough about, like, I feel like Willem Dafoe took Green Goblin from where he was in Spider-Man 1 up to, you know, if he was like an 8 or a 9 in that movie, he's at an 11 now. Like, he just, you almost can't do another Green Goblin. Like, everybody thought he was great in Spider-Man, but this is incredible. This is like, you can't, just so good. You just have to see it. Like, and I'll say the same for Electro, and I'll say the same for Doc Ock. Like, they were better than their versions in their original movies. And that's a lot to say for a movie where, like, you got screen time being shared between so many people. There's 5 villains in this, and you know, 3 Spider-Men, and Daredevil, and MJ, and Aunt May, and Happy, and, like, Jesus Christ, you know. But, like, everybody gets their moment. Everybody gets their time to shine. There was a scene where MJ was running. The big final scene fight was on top of the Statue of Liberty, and Ned and MJ were in a portal through Ned's sling ring. They were going to take the box because Green Goblin was out to get the box, and I think Electro too. Lizard, the bad guys wanted to get the box, so they didn't get sent back to the next world, to their original worlds. They wanted to stay alive and wreak havoc here, and they couldn't shut the portal. So now instead of being in the safe apartment, they were on top of the Statue of Liberty running, because Lizard was chasing them, I think, or maybe Green Goblin by this point. And there's a scene where MJ falls, and this was straight out of the trailer too, where we're like, okay, is she gonna get Gwen Stacy'd? And Spider-Man dives for her. Our little Peter, Tom Holland, dives for her, and Green Goblin fucking hits him and gets him. Like, that ruthless bastard wants to see her die. And he knocks Tom Holland out of the air, and MJ's going to hit the ground. And I was so scared. I did not want MJ to die in this. But who swipes in to fucking save the day at the last minute to save the love interest from falling to her death? But Andrew fucking Garfield, who couldn't save Gwen Stacy in his version of Spider-Man from the fall, was able to come in and redeem himself and save MJ in this one. Holy fuck, dude. Like, And just the look on his face when he did that, like, I'm getting a little emotional right now. Like, this is the kind of fan service. So for all the, like, little dialogue lines that are kind of like, okay, that's a little cheesy, or like the convenient plot points, like Ned can just sling fucking portals now, and they have a machine that can just make anything. Stark Tech invent a machine to fucking just create anything out of nowhere, you know, like, for all of those kind of things and the boring opening act, the shit that they give you in this final, just, it's incredible. As a Spider-Man fan, you can't get any better than this. And you, as a superhero comic book fan, you can't get any better than this. I would put it behind Endgame and Infinity War only because of the diversity of the characters in this. You know, you get the Guardians, you get Thor, you get Cap, you get Iron Man, you get Spider-Man, you get everybody in those, you know. Here was that level of a movie for sure. But because it was Spider-Man centric, you know, like, it's not as epic, but it's on that level. Like, that's why they're top 3 and they're so close. This was such an epic movie, and they all got closure. At the end, they were able to fix everybody. Lizard gets turned back to human. Sandman gets turned back to human. Electro gets turned back to human. Green Goblin is about to die. I think Green Goblin actually does die. Actually, you know what? I can't remember. Peter was gonna kill him. That's where I was going with that. Peter was rage, and he was vengeance, and he was gonna go get him. And Tobey stops him right before Tom Holland is about to rage kill, like John Walker with the shield in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Peter's got the Green Goblin's hovercraft thing, and he's gonna stab him with it. And Green Goblin wants it. He's like, you know, like he's an agent of chaos, like the Joker. This is fun for him. This is what he wants. He wants to corrupt Peter. But Tobey stops him, and he prevents him. He holds it, and he keeps him from being able to kill Green Goblin. And he's kind of giving him that look in the eye, like, no, Peter, no. Like, you're better than this. Don't do this. Finally, Tom Holland snaps out of it. He's able to shake it. And that's right where Green Goblin stabs Tobey Maguire. And we thought Tobey was going to get killed, but he didn't. Andrew comes and saves the day, and this is where I don't remember if Green Goblin got killed or if he got... no, he got stabbed in the neck with the serum that they came up with to get rid of his Green Goblin thing. So he was reduced back to humble Norman Osborn as well. So all these bad guys get put back to normal. And then I think Doc Ock gets sent back with the arc reactor or some kind of Stark Tech. Like, he gets sent back to his reality to continue his mission. Like, he's still got the octopus arms, and he continues his mission as a good guy with new technology, and it's just this super happy, feel good, everybody gets their fucking moment. And then Doctor Strange at some point comes out of that pocket dimension too towards the end in this final battle. And I think when Ned's trying to figure out how to close the portals or whatever, he opens one back up for Doctor Strange. And Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Tom Holland, basically like trying to remember how exactly it happened, but I think in trying to send the bad guys back is when the blue like rips happen in the sky, and or the purple rips in the sky happen, and it's like the multiverse is about to split open, and you start seeing like it's basically like it's not the multiverse, like everybody, but it's everybody who knows all Peter Parker related, Spider-Man related characters. So you look up in the sky and you see silhouettes of like Kraven the Hunter and like Scorpion and Rhino, and it's like just the silhouettes, and it's like it's fucking incredible, right? Like all of these variants in the sky they're all ready to come through basically, and Doctor Strange is like, I can fix this, but the only way I can do it is do that original spell where everybody forgets you're Peter Parker. You know, Spider-Man is Peter Parker. They're gonna forget Peter Parker. Period. Everybody. And Tom decides he's gonna do it, but he's gonna tell MJ first and Ned first. And he goes and he has his last words with them, and him and the scene with MJ had me tearing up as well. Like, I get really sappy about that kind of stuff. Like, their love story was so good. You know, MJ tells Peter that she loves him, and they kiss. And Peter's gonna tell her that he loves her too, and she stops him and she says, "No, you tell me in the future." You know, like, they basically made a pact where he tells her, you know, you're gonna forget me, but I'm gonna go find you and I'm gonna tell you. And she's like, okay. So to make sure he keeps his promise, she would not let him tell her he loves her too. He has to save that, and he has to go tell her when he goes to find her again. So he's going to walk up to a stranger and say, you know, I love you, and try to explain all this to her. And that's the game plan. He's going to do it with Ned too. He's like, you promise? I promise. Doctor Strange does the spell, and he saves it. The portal closes. Everything goes. All the bad guys go back to they're all saved and normal and go back to their world alive and fixed. But MJ doesn't know Peter. Ned doesn't know Peter. I don't even think Doctor Strange knows Peter. Nobody knows Peter anymore. So Peter's alone. And then they go to the scene where he's going to go tell MJ. And he runs into MJ and Ned. And he's got it all written out because he's a nerd. He's gonna write out exactly how he wants to tell it to her. And he goes and he sees MJ. And he talks to her. She's working in a cafe, so he gets something to drink, and it's like the way that she looks at him. She looks at him like there's something to him, but it's there, but it's not there, right? Like, she's like attracted to him, maybe. Like, she's kind of like the way you might describe the look of love at first sight. Like, when she laid eyes on him, she was kind of like, oh wow, look, you know. And she was like, her eyes were just wide and like lit up, you know. You could see the magic in it, but she still had no idea who he was. And he's trying to like talk to her and get out his little spiel that he's got on the paper, and then she brushes her hair and reveals a Band-Aid on her head. And he asked if it hurts, and she said, no, it's fine now. And it reminded him that she was injured because she was caught up in his bullshit, and that if he brings her back into his bullshit again, he could hurt her for real this time. So he decides to not keep his promise to Ned and MJ. And he walks out alone and never revealing himself. And then we get to a scene, you know, where they're at Aunt May's grave. Peter's at Aunt May's grave, and he talks to Happy Hogan. And Happy's like, how did you know her? And I knew her through Spider-Man. And Happy's like, yeah, me too. So people know Spider-Man exists, but they don't know it's Peter Parker. And Happy didn't know Peter at all here at the grave. And finally, it ends with Peter getting an apartment in New York still, all by himself, and nobody knows who he is anymore. And he's made his own suit. He's not relying on Stark Tech anymore or anything like that. And he's made like the traditional like blue and red suit from the comics, and he's just hops out the window off on his own, like, and that's where we end it. And like, it's like a clean slate. Like, we got a full-fledged like grown man Spider-Man now. He's lost his innocence, and he's like got the great power comes great responsibility line. And like, You know, by the way, the other Spider-Mans went back with the Doctor Strange spell. Everybody went back to their own universes and stuff. But just wow, 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 wow. Like, I can't, man, there's no way to get across the magic that you're going to feel watching this movie. Again, I don't think it's above Endgame or Infinity War. I felt a lot of magic watching those movies. But this is, I mean, this is, for what this does for cinema, we're spoiled rotten as fans. Like, we have no, like, anybody that sits back and like, well, Meg, I don't like this because of this or what, like, fuck you. Like, you have no idea, like, how spoiled we are as fans, as people who love this shit, to get to an experience. Like, this has never been done in movies where two different franchises were brought together into a third franchise, and, like, just the way that they paid homage to all these characters and did them all justice, and they weren't just there for cameos and then stuffed back into a box, but they all had their own individual story arcs, and they all left in a better place, and they were all like better performances than their original appearance, with the exception of Tobey, in my opinion. Like, this was just pure fucking magic, lightning in a bottle that comes along. This is a movie that, you know, we haven't had this movie since Endgame, and we're not going to get this kind of movie again for another 5 years. Like, 3 years, 5 years. Like, this is a magical thing to cross these Spider-Men over from the different universes, to tell the story that they did in the way they did, in the way that it left. Like, we got all of this life lived for Peter Parker, for Tom Holland's Peter Parker, and it's almost like he's just now getting started, you know? And we're supposed to be going into another trilogy, you know, it'll be his college years or whatever, and he'll be more of a grown, like, he lost his innocence in this movie. He's grown man, like, grizzled Peter Parker now. Like, Aunt May died. Like, he's got that scar on his heart now, that scar on his soul, that heavy weight he carries. We're gonna see some great shit going forward. And it's just so good. A couple end credit scenes. One's basically just the trailer for Doctor Strange. It does have Wanda in it, so there's that. And then, I mean, it looked dope, but there's no, like, big revelation other than Wanda was in it. But then the other one was the Venom end credit scene, where it picked up in the same place that Venom 2's end credit scene did, where they're at this resort or hotel or whatever, and they're in the MCU and they're watching the shit on TV. So it's kind of like after they've been there a while, and they're sitting at a bar, and Tom Hardy is getting drunk as fuck, you know, and this bartender's telling him all about the superheroes in this universe. So Tom Hardy's like, so let me get this straight. You got a tin guy that flies around in the sky. You got a big angry green guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, yeah, the Hulk. And Venom's like, that's a stupid name. Like, something like that. I don't know if that was the exact, but just shit like that, you know? And then, like, Tom Hardy gets up and he's like, you know what? I gotta go see the Spider-Man guy. I'm gonna go to New York. And as he gets up to walk away, he gets Doctor Strange spelled back into his own universe. And it's like, it was depressing. Like, I'm kind of laughing about it because I fully believe in my heart that they're gonna give us a Spider-Man Venom crossover. I fully believe in my heart that we're going to see Tom Hardy and Tom Holland in the same movie, and that's what I want. And I don't care if it's in the Sonyverse, Spider-Verse, or if it's in the MCU. I really don't. Because at this point, Tom Hardy's Venom is MCU canon, along with everything else, but that's fine. I like that he was brought in to at least be canon in the MCU. But I would have liked to have seen more, and I hope we get to see more of Tom Hardy's Venom in the MCU. But even if we didn't, he appears to be out now. He was brought in with a spell because I believe, and I've seen other theories out there as well, because people are like, well, how come, the only people brought into the universe, if he was brought in from Doctor Strange's spell, it was only people that knew Spider-Man was Peter Parker. But remember, like, they addressed in that end credit scene that Venom shares like a hive mind with every Venom ever. So the Venom that existed in Spider-Man 3 and any other Venom that crossed paths with Spider-Man, there's a remembrance of that. So Venom knew. And there was a little tiny piece of symbiote left on the counter in the MCU. So we have symbiote. We have the Venom symbiote in the MCU. Will it be Tom Hardy? Will it be that version of Venom? Will it be Venom at all? Will it go to, will it go to like Flash Thompson in the MCU? Will there be their own version of Venom, like a different? Who knows what they're gonna do with that? But I hope we get Tom Hardy and Tom Holland in the same movie. That's what I need next. But man, I can't say enough good things about this. On my scale of how I would rate this movie, I do the 5 heart scale. If I was gonna do like on a scale of 1 to 10, I would put this at a 9, 10 being the most perfect masterpiece of a movie ever. I would say, like I said, there's parts of this that are a little plot holy or inconvenient or just whatever, but could have been written a little tighter, so I wouldn't put it as, a masterpiece of perfection. But absolutely on my scale of hearts, 5 out of 5. This is a 5 heart movie. You have to go see this in the theater. You have to see it multiple times. You have to own it. This is the one of, if not the most epic, some people argue it is the most epic superhero movie of all time. I would put it behind Infinity War and Endgame. Some people I've even heard put it behind like Winter Soldier and like Civil War, which are good movies, but I wouldn't go that far. But fan-fucking-tastic. Must see. Greatest Spider-Man movie of all time. By far. For sure. It tops any of the MCU Spider-Man. It tops the Amazing Spider-Man. It tops the Raimi series. It's so good. It's fucking, just go see it. That's my review. That's my spoiler review. I appreciate you guys if you listen through the end, and I appreciate you taking this journey with me. What a fucking time to be a nerd, right? To be a nerdy comic book geek in this world. Like, the fan service is just incredible, and I'm loving it. I'm very appreciative of it. We need it. We need happiness, and we got it. Peace, love, and pizza. I'm Seth Grimes.